Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. I'm super excited today, as I always am with my guests, to be joined with someone who is in Ukraine, putting his money where his mouth is and putting his time where his mouth is, and where I'm sure many of us in alternate lives would like to be helping out as much as possible, although it's not incredibly pleasant at times, and I'm sure he'll let us know about his experiences of this morning. But I'm super happy to be joined by Richard Woodruff, who has a long sort of in terms of the last 5 years. The last 3 years seems like a very long time period, doesn't it? But he has a history of working with drones, and he's going to talk to us a lot about drones. But before then, we'll learn a bit about his journey, and probably before that, we'll learn about what he's experienced this morning. Richard, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I was scrolling through many of your videos this morning, and I was in complete disbelief about how many you actually managed to record. I was flicking back to try and find the wonderful one that you did with Dimko, and yeah, a very friend of mine. And yeah, I was scrolling and don't know how you managed to find the time in the day to record so many episodes. Yes, this
It is
morning
something
was
of an
interesting.
obsession.
I'm currently in Kharkiv. Oh, it's a good obsession, especially if you're focusing on Ukraine. Nothing more important. So 5:45 a.m. this morning, we were awoken by the sound of a Shahed drone exploding. And yeah, it's the first time I've heard one of those in a bloody long time, because I'm usually out west, so I'm usually living in Lviv. So we don't have daily explosions, or even monthly at this point. So I was woken up by the explosion, and then swiftly got back to sleep, as most Ukrainians do, because you don't want your sleep being disrupted. And then a few hours later, awoke to a whole barrage of them, just a few 100 meters in front of where we were staying whilst we were in Kharkiv. And these are the kind of explosions that you don't just sleep through, because you're actually hearing the Shahed come directly above where you are staying to hit the target. And it's just insane and terrifying having to calculate, okay, like Russia is this side of the building, so we know that if they accidentally miss, they're going to fly into the back of the building, and then therefore we should hopefully survive because we're on the other side. So that was the only way that I felt the confidence to actually film the events of this morning, which I cannot publish because it would give away anti-air locations. It will give away exactly what they were hitting. I understand there are loads of clips online where they like try and blur the buildings out. But my ambition this morning was just to get my adrenaline levels down, because I was shaking like crazy. And I mean, I've been to the trenches, I've been under artillery fire, I've been through all of these various situations, but it's been at least 6 months since the last time I'd had such a huge barrage of missiles or Shaheds. And it was just insane, because since the last time I heard them, which was probably 4 or 5 months ago, I was staying around the Kyiv Oblast. Since then, they had gone from doing a silent final descent to instead rapidly increasing until it hits the target. So before, it was just you hear them flying, and then it goes silent, and then you just have 5 seconds of, okay, I'm waiting to hear the explosion. Where this time it was just like, just that final descent was such a horrific scream. And yeah, like I should have been doing what everyone else in Ukraine should be doing, and hiding in the hallway or bathroom. But I understand my job role here in Ukraine, and that's actually letting people around the world understand what's going on. So I frightfully was holding my phone camera above my head, showing what was going on to the world at some point in the future.
I've seen more and more footage of drones, of Shahed drones doing those terminal descents. Just recently on the recruitment offices in Poltava and other such places, Kremenchuk, and then they're even moving the recruitment office from Vinnytsia now because of the targeting of recruitment offices. And so yeah, I've seen a lot of these, we used to see them kind of going into buildings up at this angle, just horizontal, but now I'm seeing a lot of terminal dives. Let's talk about them having rocket propulsion now as well on the Shahed. So these things are adapting. Of course, you'll want to talk about adaptations in terms of drones, but so is there a significant difference in a range in the Shahed drones that people are experiencing?
Oh, I think it's just one model that they're making, and they're just switching it over now. They're switching it over, so all of them have this final terminal descent, and I think it's solely to combat the way that we have been fighting the Shaheds. So, as you know, most of the time it's guys in the back of pickup trucks with machine guns that are shooting these things because they'd been traveling low to avoid the radars. Whereas now they don't want to be shot down, so they travel at high altitude, a few thousand meters, and then you just don't even know that they exist. And then you just see this thing plummeting from the sky. And yeah, I caught a few of the clips today on video, and you see the Shahed, and when you're filming it, you can actually see the shadow ghost lines on the video footage because of how fast it's traveling downwards, which normally you would only see when you're capturing like missile footage hitting. So it was faster than the frame rate that it was coming down into these buildings, and just completely horrific. As I've said before, I've seen them, and they've kind of almost lightly fallen out of the sky onto the targets, dropped at that final part. But these were in almost missile form, just screeching down towards it. And yeah, as I said, it's the first time in a very, very long time I've been just completely shaking. Yeah, and it's just scary having to capture that stuff and rather than hiding away.
I remember when I was in Kherson back in February 2024, and we stayed at a guest house, and it's rather like you were saying, because that was close to the river, Dnipro River, and I wouldn't go there now, it's just too dangerous. But we stayed in a guest house where the rooms were on the backside, and you just think about there's a building here to protect. And, there's a lot of thought goes in for some people when they're selecting where to stay in these particular places that suffer a lot more than others. But yeah, incredible. Give us a sense of like who you are for those who don't know you. What's your background? Where have you come from? Why have you ended up in Ukraine doing what you're doing, and what is it indeed that you are doing?
So very simply, now I'm a British volunteer that's been in Ukraine for over 3 years now, volunteering every single day. We haven't had a day off yet. Prior to this life, I was enjoying my life in Spain. I'd been taking almost like a sabbatical, a long break from work. I'd quit my job in England, which was publishing, which I'd worked in for 7 years, and I joined it straight from leaving school, so never really had a break. So I was working sales, publishing, advertising, and then eventually was like, fuck it. At what point will I actually take a break in life? Will it be when I'm 40 years old? Because everyone was saying, you got to focus on paying into your retirement fund and stuff like that. And it was just like, when am I going to get my break? So I took my break. I was in Spain, and every day I was on the beach, playing beach volleyball, drinking sangria, just living the life that probably all of us would want to live every day. I mean, it wasn't very fulfilling in the sense that, I was never doing anything to help anyone else apart from myself every day. It was just complete self-indulgence. And then, yeah, I saw what was happening in Ukraine. I was watching the news by my bedside on my phone. I had Sky News playing 24 hours per day, and even when I was sleeping, so that I could wake up and see the latest thing. I watched as the tanks were amassing on the border. I remember when they said, they have mobile hospitals. You don't have mobile hospitals if you're doing like a training exercise. You don't have blood banks already. And that was the moment I was like, shit, something's about to happen. And then the first few nights following the invasion, when Zelensky came on the television and said, hey, we need people, we need someone to come out and fight. Instantly I was like, I'm going to Ukraine. I messaged my Spanish landlord and said, I'm sorry, I'm ending my tenancy early, I'm going to Ukraine. He said, you're crazy, but like, I understand. As long as you find someone to rent the room, that's cool, you can go. So spent a couple of months sorting all of my affairs out, went to England to say goodbye to my family, and then started heading out to Ukraine. And I remember the few days before I was heading out watching the footage from Bucha, and they were these really, really sad Ukrainian men that were having to dig all of these graves. And I had this probably naive and stupid idea in my head back then that I was going to go to Bucha and help these gents dig these graves, because they were so completely drained and destroyed, and you could just see it was body after body after body.
Wow.
So my whole idea was to go to the Bucha, Kyiv kind of region, and I was only meant to be taking a short stop in Lviv, Ukraine. But I asked at the station, I said, how can I help? Like, where can I help in Ukraine? Where can I help in Lviv? Because back then there was no resource on the internet, because the Ukrainians were fighting a bloody war. 2 months in, the Ukrainians weren't thinking, how can we bring a bunch of foreigners here? So no resource existed. So I spent a bit of time at a kitchen in Lviv, and we were making like dehydrated borscht for the front back then, because back then the military drastically increased by like 500,000 men in the space of a few days and weeks. So there were food shortages.
Were you not working in that kitchen then in Lviv? Was that you?
Yeah. That was me.
Sorry,
like 3 years ago.
Yeah, because right, yeah. It's like joining the dots, because now I know you as Drone, Matt. But yeah, okay, well, of course. Sorry, yeah, I should know that.
Yeah. No, it's been a bloody long history. So I was in Lviv for a bit, and then I was down in Kherson with you. Not with you, but I was staying in Chonobka, and I was there for probably a month. And as you would know from being there, every single day you're having artillery going in and out, and you just learn to fall asleep to the sound of just artillery fire, which is an insane thing. And following that, I went all across the front lines, went to many trench lines, many frontline reconnaissance positions, and really then it was kind of showing to the outside world, this is what is happening across the front. This is what the guys on the front need. They need cars. They need, back then it was just reconnaissance drones. It was Mavic drones, Alto drones. I was going around trying to show the world, this is the situation for the civilians that are starving in the deoccupied areas, and this is the situation for the guys on the front, what they actually need in terms of weapons. So that was an incredibly interesting time. I was pinned down by Russian FPV drones in Kupiansk, and nearly got hit by artillery. Video where we were flung across the ground by a few meters. Wow. And yeah, I thought I was going to die that day. That was like, I remember going, if I get out of here, I think I said like I'll start believing in God or something like that. I was like, I'll become very religious, I would dedicate every day and just appreciate every day, because I don't think I'm going to get out of this. And I got out of it and instantly forgot about that and went for a pint.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah. So I mean, really, Kupiansk, that was the most hairy situation. Like Chonobka, it was more like they were firing artillery over the tops.
Chonobka is a famous place for having when the Russians were occupying Chonobka, there was an air base there, and it got hit, and then they put their helicopters back there, and then they get hit again. Then they put it, and then there's a meme actually of a rotating air base just getting like blown up and restocked and blown up again, and that was just famously where they lost a heck of a lot of equipment, the Russians. Anyway, sorry.
And you've seen the Pravda beer, have you? The Pravda beer with the Chonobka logo on it. And it's a dog with a collar name of Chonobka, and it's got a Russian soldier in the mouth, because whole airport was just soldiers being churned up, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think they lost 3 generals or something along those lines at that base, because they kept going to check what was happening, and they just kept dying. It was one of those pure examples of the Soviet mindset of, we have given you the instruction to take this airport, and we don't care about you how many die. And yeah, 3 generals in, they went, okay, maybe we should abandon this idea. And yeah, I think it was like 10 helicopters or something crazy. There's a fantastic song, by the way, you must listen to, called Chonobka on Spotify. And it has the translation of the lyrics, and it's just incredible.
Nice.
Really, really good song.
Here it is.
And then we spent time down in Kherson with the floods. Please carry on. Tell the details about the hits.
No. I just want to just show you the meme I was just talking about. So this is back at the beginning of the war. This is Chonobka, and it was just like,
I haven't seen that.
And I just remember showing it because it was like that all the time, and I kept reporting, oh, they've blown up some more helicopters at Chonobka. Oh, they've blown up some more helicopters. It's like in the Simpsons where they electrocute a hamster. Eh?
Do you know the total? I'm really interested in the total. How many helicopters and how many generals there were?
No,
but I think in the song it said like at least 11 helicopters and 3 generals. Yeah, and then the Kherson dam was exploded, the name of which is, you'll be able to tell me?
Nova Kakovka.
Nova Kakovka, that's the one. So we were heading down there to effectively go on a rescue mission to save people and pets from the floods. And that was insane because I was so naive back then. I didn't realize that the Russians would be specifically targeting us. And there's a video of us sat in the speedboat waiting to go out and rescue people, and artillery was coming down all around us. And I was there like, oh, la, 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 like, oh, the Russians firing some artillery. And the next day in that exact position, they hit a British volunteer that was using one of our boats to go out and rescue people. And the shrapnel went all through the boat. It was into his body, and he spent months and months and months recovering from that hit. And that was the moment where I go, okay, that could have been me, that could have been me in that boat.
Yeah, I remember seeing that the video of you. I'm sure I did around that time, but yeah, let's see if I can dig something out. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, on my Twitter feed, on the Frontline Kit feed, on highlights, there are all of the videos of such as that and all of the other near-death experiences. And after the last time, after that trench run, decided, okay, I'm not going back to that kind of frontline position. Yes, I'll still go and visit the guys in the command posts, but going to 800 meters away from the Russians is just completely fucking stupid. There are lots of stories about that, but I won't go too deep into it.
Wow, I didn't even realize you got the Star of Honor. Your highlights is quite some highlights. Talk us through that.
Yeah, that was actually from I think that one was from the kitchen. Yeah, it was the first one that they had ever given, and that was after being there for a year of every day. But my favorite one by far is the one from Valery Zuluski. That was just like I said, like, okay, there's nothing else that I need in life apart from like appreciation from the man himself, because I don't know if you know, Zuluski in Lviv is the #1 most loved person in the entire country.
Is that where he's from?
I don't know where it is. Where's the Zuluski one? Might be a little bit higher. Well, there was a trench part where we nearly got blown up. It might be a bit further down, but I was in Kyiv, went to Kyiv to go pick up the award. And yeah, I was like, life is complete. Because in Ukraine, like, Zelensky's a slightly controversial character. Like, some of the Ukrainians like him, some of them don't, but everyone loves Zuluski. Everyone's like, he's the man, he's the guy. So to actually get an award from him for the contribution that we've made over the past, I think it was like year and a half then, that was really, really cool. Yeah.
I've talked about this before, about Zuluski and about people's opinions of him, and particularly of those abroad who don't really know the decisions he made when he was in charge. And you get a sense that, like, he looks like a really nice guy. He looks like a decent guy. He wears like Baby Yoda and stuff as patches. And you get so
I have that patch.
My theory was that people give him a lot more, and I'm not trying to criticize Zuluski at all. My point is, I don't know enough about him to generate a justifiable opinion. This is when you have a background in philosophy, like you're always second guessing your own like thoughts and psychology. But I wonder whether a lot of people really like him because of all this background stuff. But actually, what evidence do we have that so? For example, the summer offensive of 2023 didn't go very well, and he was predicting that they'd advance 30 kilometers a day, and actually that didn't happen. And he held his hands up and said, "Look, I got this wrong." But actually, that was some serious getting stuff wrong there. And so, you know, I wonder what the history books would tell us about these people like Zelensky, like Zaluzhny, as in, you know, when we find out all the details about these people, you know, were they, you know, was he a good
the decisions they made?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I'd heard from the soldiers is he had always had such a high value of life. So he had always made the decisions that were, okay, how do we keep as many of our guys alive? Whereas, people feel that other leaders had just made stupid decisions because they wanted to show some kind of gains. Which, yes, also could have been a negative thing towards Zaluzhny because he was playing it too safe and then therefore not really getting the results that were required to make a meaningful difference. But everyone had always said he just valued the guys so much, and that's why there was so much love on it. Yeah, that's the clip. Oh god, that really was horrendous.
I don't want to trigger you or anything.
And the Russians published that. No, but the Russians published that, and we were sat exactly where that boat was. And you can see that in, I think, maybe earlier on in that clip, we were sat in that boat in the exact same position because that's where you wait before you head out across the river.
Well, I mean, this reminds me of like what's happened over the last couple of days, right? In Kherson, I think it was Kherson. Certainly, one was hit now, but I don't know whether the video came from there. But there's a video that came out last 24 hours of a fire engine being hit in the front of the fire engine by an FPV drone, and you know the classic, put loads of cool music on it. Here, look, check what we're doing. And then the other day we're destroying a petrol station, and then you know that fire engine was a double tap, and then they've got a video of taking out a stork flying through the air, and you're like, would you just, and then of course what they do around Kherson with the human safari, they're just bastards. And you know this idea that there's kind of both sidesism in this war is not justified by the evidence that we have, which is that both sides are doing this war in completely different ways. I mean, from you will have a much better grasp of this than I would, I'm sure. Is that a fair analysis? I mean, do you think that the Ukrainians are just operating on a different moral calculus than the Russians?
I think it's just completely different people. Like that's a very simple thing, is that they strive to just do as much carnage as possible, where our guys are actually thinking, okay, doing this calculus, what is actually valuable to hit, because we're not in a situation where we can waste these kind of things. I think it's as simple as that, where they're just going for some shock sometimes.
Incredible.
Just to pre-warn you, I am in the shelter for this building, so if a missile is coming, this whole location will be absolutely filled with a load of people. Just to give you the heads up there. We're getting quite a few ballistic missile alerts. So
and actually there's been talk the last couple of days. There have been 4 S-300, S-400 surface-to-air missile systems using a ground attack mode. I think they were used on Sumy last night, but the night before might be in Kharkiv. That used to happen in Kharkiv quite a lot, sent from behind Belgorod. So I presume that might be on the card. So where were you again? So in your journey towards what you do now?
Sorry, what was the last bit of that question?
Where we got to the journey of you were telling us you were in Kakovka, and then obviously now you're dealing with drones. So that last part of the journey.
Yeah, so we were in Kakovka, and then after that, I think after that I'd come back to Lviv. And me and all of the kind of foreign volunteers that I'd built up the connections with over the previous year and a half were trying to figure out, okay, what is the thing that the military needs the most right now? Like, what can we do that would actually really help in the war effort? And we were brainstorming for days and days, and we started making some like dehydrated jerkies because some units were like, oh, would really like some stuff that we can actually eat whilst like firing the weapons. Because at that point, I mean, after a year and a half, they'd got their logistics sorted out in terms of the kind of food, but they still need the things where you're running around and shooting. So we were making some jerkies, and then we're like, we don't feel this is the right thing. We don't feel like this is, going to end the war. And then someone came up with a suggestion: hey, why don't we just make FPV drones? Because that was, I think it was around about that week, Zelensky made the announcement that, hey, we need to be producing 1 million of these FPV drones every single year. And currently we weren't anywhere near that kind of capacity. The figure now is way, way higher in terms of what we're actually producing. So then we got in contact with a unit from the front lines called Falcon Force, and some of their videos were insane. They were showing us of they were literally getting hit by FPV drones and artillery on their position, and they were standing there, and they turned the camera around, and the room was filled with FPV drones stacked on shelves, and they just had this artillery coming in outside of the window, the building filled with smoke, and they're like, oh shit, we should probably get out of here because they know our location and we're going to be dead in the next few minutes. So these guys had gone through so much war, and they came back to Lviv, and they were actually just teaching us over the space of like 3 or 4 days of how to do the basics of building an FPV drone. And yeah, we spent the first probably few weeks just building and then disassembling the same 3 or 4 FPV drones, because we didn't have any funds at that point to build drones, and each drone being $300 bucks, 250 British pounds, it's quite expensive. You need £1,000 laying around just to be able to do the first steps of learning to build FPV drones. And then from that point, I got onto Twitter, got onto NAFO, and was like, hey guys, like, we're building drones voluntarily for the military. We just need funds for the parts. Like, every one of our team is still foreign volunteers, and we just wanted to build these devices to send to the front lines. Is that Darth Putin? No, that's malfunction. Okay, but there's a guy on Twitter called Darth Putin. I really
He's
love
great.
him.
Darth Putin's great.
Makes me laugh a lot. Yeah, so then we started producing FPV drones, and the real breakthrough came probably 3 months into our building, because at that point we hadn't hit anything. We hadn't hit a single drone, and we had a friend reach out to us, and they said, have you sent any drones to Achilles yet? I have a friend in Achilles. And we were like, what is an Achilles? Like, well, what is this? And it turned out to be one of the top brigades in the entire country. And yeah, we sent out a batch of like 3 or 4 drones. And the following week, we got a video back of them hitting an artillery piece that was worth $2 million.
Nice.
And we were elated. Me and Tim were running around the building like, no way! Like, we'd spent a few $1,000 at that point, and we destroyed $2 million worth of Russian equipment. And it just gave us such a feeling of, we can actually make a difference now. We can do something in this war which has the potential to change the course of the war if we do enough of it, right? And they've shown that in the past few months. The announcements that our drones and other drones have destroyed 75% of all Russian equipment. All Russian losses come down to that, FPV drones.
Yeah.
And that's insane. And then we look back now of our figures over the past year and a half, and you're talking about 30, nearly 40 tanks, multiple artillery systems, like $25 million air defense systems, hit with a 250 British pound drone. These kind of equations are how we win the war. When you can do 100,000 times return on investment, that's how you win a war.
Yeah, and you, like you're saying, the Ukrainians have ramped up to 5 million drones. Now they're aiming for 10 million drones. That's what I think Zelensky's last.
Wow.
I think that was Zelensky's last number. That's obviously a goal, but I think this last year would have been like 4 to 5 million or something. And then you wonder how undercounted that could be, because there'll be a lot of drones getting into Ukraine through just individuals like fundraising and getting, I'm sure that there are many that just aren't simply counted and whatnot, but yeah, just incredible stuff. There are so many questions I want to ask you about drones. So just before we go on, here's your frontlinekit.org. And to be honest, we're just embarking on, and I don't want to there be a conflict of interest here, but we're just embarking on a campaign fundraiser for Jiggers Paw, who are based in Lviv.
Awesome.
I've visited Jiggers
Yeah,
Paw, and
really good friends of mine. Yeah.
Well, Dimko and Irina
as
well. They're just absolutely lovely people doing a magnificent job. So we're just starting up this great campaign that my man JR has put into place. But certainly, if you want us after that to partner with you to help you.
Is that the campaign for Achilles? Because that might be with us anyway.
I don't know. It's a brand new one, and it's just I've barely even looked at what we're doing.
That might be
exactly.
our one anyway. That might be our one, because we're just about to launch one with them. I think within the next week or couple of weeks. So you might actually be about to be promoting our drones shortly. But they had just done a big campaign. I don't know if they've just closed that. And the only reason that we weren't building those ones was because
Is that
it
the
had
Triad
to be
campaign?
That's the one.
Because we fundraised an absolute ton for that, so that was really cool. Anyway, carry on.
Oh, well, I know the Triad one. I think that was the thermal cameras. Maybe I think that might have been the
DJIs. Some of them were
sure.
thermals. Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah,
night drones.
They were night drones.
Yeah. Anyway, we're very, very close with Zuluski, and we would actually have been their supplier for the last lot of FPV drones, but we weren't a business. And the only way that Lviv Council could actually match the drones was if they were buying from a registered drone business that had been around for 6 months. And as we're a non-profit NGO, they couldn't do the order via us, which is very sad, because of course they would save money on the drones, but the council was giving them an extra 50%. So it's okay, in reality, more drones will be getting to the front. And yeah, we love Zuluski, and we have no qualms if they're using some other provider. As we said, we're going to be doing a campaign with them. I don't want to break any breaking announcements or anything, but yeah, a campaign is coming soon between us.
Awesome stuff. We'll keep us posted about that, and we'll after we finished this one that's not yet started. This is the one we're doing, Drone Lab, where we are putting together menus of stuff that you can
I know him.
Put money towards. So awesome stuff. So anyway, so with regard to
that's 47th Brigade, by the way.
Oh, is that the 47th? That's who are really doing an incredible job. Really 47th. They're
incredible job.
So your frontline kit at the moment. So you basically have then what I presume a drone workshop. How many are involved in doing what you're doing? What are you doing exactly? Obviously building drones.
Yeah, so we're building drones from Chinese components. These drones cost around about 250 quid a piece, because that is just the components part, and no one's getting any salary on top of that. So it means that we can supply the drones to the front at the lowest possible cost, in the best quality. And the reason it's the best quality is because there's no time pressure to do anything. We're not forced, okay, this drone is worth money, so therefore to earn the money on it, you've got to build it as quick as possible and send it out. No, this is a passion project. We want to help the military, and then therefore every single drone that we send out has to be 99.999% perfect. Saying that, we still build them incredibly quickly. We have one lady with us called Maria, and she can actually build a 10-inch FPV drone in less than an hour.
Wow.
Just let that sink in. That's 1 hour, and it can take out a $25 million air defense system. So the turnaround is incredibly quickly. We've got 10 to 15 volunteers with us at the moment. Currently half of them are taking a break. The reason they're taking a break is we just don't have the funds currently to be able to produce enough drones. As I said earlier, it's 250 quid a drone. That's quite expensive for the average donor to be able to say, I want one of those. And if you think each one of our volunteers can easily produce 10 of those per day, it's like, okay, so that's 2,500 quid for every volunteer that we have. Okay, so that means that I need to find at least 25,000 British pounds every single day just to keep our volunteer drone factory operating. And then
Holy
you go,
crap.
that's a lot of money. So yeah, that's why we've had to send half of the team away this month, just because I've not been doing my job good enough in terms of fundraising, in terms of letting people out there know what we're doing. So yeah, hopefully in a couple of weeks when they're coming back, I would have raised enough funds to effectively restart full production.
So
But it's expensive.
yeah, what makes your drones? I mean, you talked about attention to detail, and I guess you're getting in good enough components for what they need to be at the right price from China.
Yeah.
Do you have any issues with components coming from China? Because we have heard previously of sabotaged chips and whatnot. And B, what other advantages do your drones have, or is it just that they're just now the bog standard drones that do a job, and you don't need to have like crazy advantages?
So we have a very good Ukrainian supplier that buys everything from China. So that means that we can actually check every single last component before signing off on it. And he has friends in China at these factories, which mean that we get the grade A components. So there are different gradings to all of these things. Grade A obviously being the best, grade C being the worst. And they do that even with like battery cells. So you could buy a Samsung 50S battery and you'd be saying to everyone, look, I've got the best quality battery that is out there, but it's a different grade and then therefore not as good for the soldiers. So the number one thing is just huge quality control on every single component going in. We don't change the components very often. If we have a product that is working, a motor, for example, that is working, we do not change it.
Don't
and
fix
that
what
is
ain't
why,
broken.
exactly. And the reason that we are still probably the heaviest user of Chinese components is because of that quality control. So we have like 99% of all of our drones with absolutely no problem. So I visited the Achilles workshop here in Hardekeys, and they have a whole workshop where they're having to fix volunteer and government drones to get to them. And I went into the room where they were doing all the fixing, and there was one of our drones, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's because we crashed it during testing," but nothing else. So none of our drones were being repaired. And that's why they said that they love our drones so much, is because we don't have that error. We don't have those failure rates. Most of the time, the failure rates come from components. So, for example, still some of the suppliers out there are using a certain VTX, which I'm not going to slander here, but 25% of the time it doesn't work.
What do you mean by VTX?
Video transmitter. So the thing that transmits the images to the goggles. And Achilles were actually offered, I don't know if this is secret, they were offered a huge batch of these video transmitters, and they said, here, this is just for you for free to replace the ones in your drones that are faulty. And they just denied the order. They said no.
Oh, you've broken up there.
We're not taking that crap.
Sorry, you're back again now. That's cool.
Just so you know, when there's air raids, they tend to screw around with the data signal.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's because the Shaheds operate on mobile data.
Yeah.
So when you're outside and there's an air raid, all mobile data's gone, and sometimes that screws with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
I guess it's some jamming.
Understandable. Yeah, understandable. So they didn't. So the last I heard, so they didn't take
first
a
thing
big
was
consignment of those.
Quality of component. Yeah, didn't take a big consignment because they just knew what was wrong. They knew what stuff goes wrong because they see it every day, because they have a whole workshop repairing these things. The second major thing is that all of our drones are built in collaboration with Achilles, and they're the second best brigade in the whole country in terms of results, in terms of actual hits on Russian targets. And the cool thing about that is that it means that all of their knowledge goes into our drones, and vice versa. We also share information in the other direction as well. So that's why Achilles prefers our drones, is because they're actually built with every single last component that they beg for.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Magyar brings out a list of, because now you've got like the Brave One
Yeah, they're
situation
incredible.
whereby
Mm.
different units can accrue different points, and points wins
Yes,
prizes, and you get to
exactly.
spend those points
Yep.
on the kit. And I just wanted to look at
Yep.
what the latest list was. But anyway, yeah. So carry on. So your drones. Talk to us a little bit about sort of electronic warfare and what you might have to do with regard to EW resilience, or is there anything that you do or not?
Yep. So, for instance, government crewed drones, they all come on the same frequency, and the Russians know that frequency, and then therefore they just jam the government drones and the most common frequencies. Our guys are able to tell us, hey, right now on the front lines in this position, there is a hole in this frequency. So let's say it's 750 megahertz. You know, they might go this week 750 to 850 is completely clear, or 400 is clear, or 2000 is clear. Like, they can feed that information back to us, and within that same week, we can change all of the frequencies on all of the drones before they get to them, so that they can fly freely within those airspaces. So that's another huge advantage, is all of our drones are actually bespoke for the unit, rather than a government contract where they would receive a few thousand of these, and then they would have to in their workshop change out every single frequency before they can fly. So that's the first thing in terms of electronic warfare, and how to get around it is it's just being quicker than everyone else that's out there. The second thing is we have dual frequency drones, so we can actually have them signal switching in air. So when one of the frequencies is jammed, it just automatically flicks over. It's very gnarly to watch the videos, because we have multiple videos of us about to hit a target, and then they turn on the jammer, and you can actually see in the footage it flick over to the different frequency, because it goes like black for a bit, and then the frequency comes back and is like, oh, you're still getting towards it, and then they jam it again, and then it switches again, and then it's
Right.
getting towards it closer and closer, and eventually it hits a target. But it's just insane seeing that, like,
So
on
how do
off
you
on off.
how if you're flying them, how do you know you've been jammed? Like, to be able to switch it, and surely
It
you've got to be able
automatically
to
does it.
switch it. That Oh, really? Right. Okay.
Yeah, automatic switching. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the thing. And of course now there's optical fiber drones, so that cannot be jammed. We
Do you
are working on a
produce? Oh, right. You're going to
we're
say.
we're not currently producing them, but we're working on a project with a brigade that has the complete finished unit to produce them. But the bigger priority that we're working on right now, and the real groundbreaker, and the thing that I'm going to double my efforts into this after this morning, is these Shahed interceptors.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to speak to you about that, because there are. I think Wild Hornets are producing. Are they producing
Yep.
that green one, vertical takeoff one,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
so I presume they're having some success with that. And as Zelensky said, 2 out of the 4 producers are doing a really good job, and
Mm.
I think they have to be like the priority at the moment. I think everyone's talking about
Yeah.
that. So is that something you're going to get into as well?
Yeah, so we're already producing them. We've already had our first hits, not of a Shahed, but we've actually taken out Russian reconnaissance drones with these.
Oh,
I
wow.
looked up the make and model after the Russian reconnaissance drone. I won't post it. I won't tell you until I've posted the video. But I was like, wow, that is worth a lot of money. I was shocked at
Oh, so it's
how
not going to be an
expensive these
all
Russian
and 10 or
reconnaissance
all and
drones.
30. Yeah.
It's expensive stuff. Um,
Right.
and yeah, it's so cool seeing the curvature of the Earth. When our drones are landing on top of these things, and the little FLK on screen. But yeah, the aim is to be producing hundreds of these every single month, because if you can take out the Russian reconnaissance drones, they cannot see, they can't hit our guys.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to Zigas 4 about this, actually, because these are the first humanitarian drones, completely humanitarian, because they're not killing any Russians, right? And they're only taking out technology that's in the sky, which is actually saving the lives of Ukrainian soldiers, because then Ukrainian soldiers can't be targeted by drones or by artillery or by rocket systems. So really, these drones will just be saving lives. And that's cool because there's a whole market that's opened up of people out there that are donating that right now go, I don't want to see a Russian guy get exploded or, a tank or, because they see it and they go, oh, well, it's a person, even if they are a rapist, murderer coming to kill us all, in their mind, it's still a person.
I had that with one. So with the Triad Jiggers Paw campaign that we've just done, they etched in ATP geopolitics onto the drones that we provided, and they look really cool.
Awesome.
It's so sweet. Yeah. The pictures are awesome. But there was someone on one of my threads like, oh, I feel a little bit uncomfortable about that because these are going to be used X, Y, Z, and I understand that. I get that. My position changed in the war where because at the beginning of the war I was doing a bit of philosophical umming and ahhing as to what is the best use of my aid or a campaign contribution, and then I got to the point where it's like, well, the quickest way to end this war is to destroy as much Russian stuff as possible, and sadly enough, people. But it's almost counterintuitive that you save people's lives by taking as many Russian lives and piece of material as possible. Now that's not for everyone. That's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've been saying the same message as you. Is the most humanitarian thing that we can do is crush them quickly. That even actually does save Russian lives, because then they realize, let's not spend another few years of Russian bodies here. If we just do a crushing defeat in the space of a few weeks with Western technology, then the war would end. But because we're dragging it out and the Western support's coming in slowly, it's it's just a Russian meteorite grinder.
Yeah. This is one of the lists, but this is from April. This was the top 10 Ukrainian drone units. I don't know. Is Achilles there? Is it called something else, or is it just...
no, Achilles is 429th.
Right.
No, they're not on there. No, but
that was back in April.
If you,
so I think it's changed.
Wait, it's got top 10 UAV units in March. Okay. Okay. No, I understand. If you search for so there's a top 5 Ukrainian drone group now. The president is constantly going on television with them. It's their new drone coalition, and they have Magard in there. They have, I think it's the 93rd. They have Achilles. These are the guys that are leading the whole drone revolution of Ukraine. I'm just trying to remember the name of it. I don't think it's called Drone Force. But it's the one that the president's been very publicly with every day.
Drone Line. Is it Drone Line?
It's the top 5 brigades. You'll see an image of them all together. They're all like standing there with the president.
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Ukraine top 5 drone brigades. Zelensky. So we were actually talking about that point system. Unmanned systems forces. Oh yeah, I think it might be Drone Line then. Drone Line units under new command group. Yeah. Unmanned systems forces, that's it. So
that's what Dimko's a member of that, and that's who Magyar's now sort of in command of the unmanned systems forces.
Yeah, so they have these top 5 units in them, and it's because these top 5 units are the experts in the country in terms of everything drone warfare.
Absolutely. I'll try and find some stuff to support that. But yeah, so talk to us about the point situation then. Sorry, you're breaking up again. There's a bit of a lag. I'll pause and let you speak. Oh yeah, I've got you now.
I'll let it catch up.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I've got you. Okay, sorry, your question. I missed the last 20 seconds.
Okay, so yeah, just talk to us about the point system, because I find that fascinating. The kind of gamification of warfare, or not really gamification. It's kind of like the incentives you might find in business, in performance management, essentially. And we shouldn't be surprised about this. Like, war is ultimate performance. Like, this is a performance where there's a matter of life and death. And if you want your guys to perform as well as possible, do you know what? It's better to do that on a freaking front line than in a council office somewhere in North Portsmouth or something like that. So this is I think a really good application of performance management. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Yes, so it has been very good. A slight issue that
You've broken up again. I haven't heard anything since you.
Okay.
Yep, you're back now. So it has been very good.
Okay. Yep, so it has been very good. The issue that these top drone groups are now facing is that the point system is kind of working against them because they have got very, very good objectives, and that is to take out the enemy UAV positions. So the enemy drone positions. The issue is hitting a hole in the ground might score you no points. So hitting these very, very valuable targets, unless there's some kind of evidence, you're not getting any points for it. Whereas hitting a load of Russians that are running around closer to your position, which is just, it's a turkey shoot, very, very simple thing. Great for the points. So often what you'll find is some of these commands going, today just go out and just kill a load of Russians because we need like the points. And they're actually having to have these conversations of, well, you understand what's going to be the best thing for war, and that is going really, really deep in, finding these drone groups and eliminating them, because that is the way that we're going to make a big difference. Kill the archer, not the arrow, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard because you might only have 1 in 10 hitting if you're going these 25, 30 kilometers trying to get to the positions where these hideouts, dugouts are, and killing these super valuable people. Yeah, so that's the only way that it's kind of currently working against these really good drone groups. And it's a hard thing because you want to be getting all of these points. You want to be getting all of this support because with those points, you can buy new technology. Yeah, so it's good, but it's bad. But I think overall, it's a good thing.
Yeah, good stuff. So you've been making FPV drones, and when you make the drones, do you just not talking about the interceptors, do you just make the drone? You have nothing to do with the IEDs that go on board them, and is it the units themselves that put that together?
Yeah, that's correct. So we, because we're in the West, we're not allowed to play around with explosives. So we send it to the unit, and they always strap on. That's the last thing they do, is they strap on the explosives. After doing all of the tests, after we've tested them, just to minimize the possibility of someone blowing themselves up. And unfortunately, we've lost a lot of guys from exactly that. Yeah. And that's why over the past year, us personally have been so focused on trying to work on better like detonation boards to make sure that there are so many fail safes in between a guy losing his hands, arms, and legs, and everything in between.
So when it comes to the trigger, the fuse, and however it works, like do you do some of the mechanism there? You talked about the board. I mean, do you provide the ability for this thing to blow up? How does it work? I know I've seen so many different sort of fuses where you've got it looks a bit dodgy, but where you got something like that, and that they touch when they smash it.
A couple of wires are hooking around.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, kind of thing. Is that what you would design, and your drones go with that, and then they just fix the munition to it?
Yeah. So with some units, that's the case. We would actually add in those antennas, whiskers that they call them, and that links to the detonation board. And then that detonation board goes into a safety device so that effectively when they're lifting off, then it's armed. A lot of the time, and previously with Achilles, we provided with 0 detonation boards. And the very good reason for that is every single unit would instantly take that detonation board and the whiskers and rip them off the second that they got to position. The reason being is that they don't trust anyone else's detonation boards. And I fully understand that, because if you're holding onto an RPG, you want to know that your guys have done the detonation work on it. And it's not just some cheap Chinese version that's going to lead to a load of your guys dying, or that has been sabotaged in some way. So I fully understand why. And now we just use the ones supplied specifically by the unit that say, please, dear God, just take these detonation boards and no one else's. We won't accept anything else, and we will just tear it off.
And what's the sort of feedback you get from the unit in terms of like, that feedback loop of adapting and changing and improving? Like, talk us through some of the last things that you've been asked from the unit.
The last things we've been asked of in terms of changing over, it usually is a frequency game. I mean, now because we're working with the interceptors, it's very much a focus on adapting to the new components. So because we're using these DJI O4 Air units, we're having to 3D design new camera mounts and holders to hold the servo so that it's not just a forward-facing camera, but it can also be tilted in different directions. So such as when you're looking out for the Russian reconnaissance drones below, you want it pointing downwards. So that's a thing that would change, that would be bespokely built by us, but we would also have kind of inputs from them. And there are lots of things where we may kind of copy other designs out there. We may see what other people are doing and go, hey, let's save ourselves a bunch on research and development and just copy what the best people out there are doing. And then we ask the brigade and they say, don't do that at all. That thing just doesn't work. And we're like, shit, but we've seen thousands of them on the internet. Like we've seen that these people are mass producing this stuff. And then they go, dear God, just don't do it. That doesn't work at all. Try this instead. So we actually take the new developments most of the time from the unit themselves, because they have gone through this trial and error. They have had the battle experience with what's working and what's not. And they can just feed back directly to us and say, yep, here are all of the secrets. Just please don't go around sharing it with everyone, because you never know who you can trust, and it's effectively their information, their technology, their software, their findings out, and yeah, they don't want us just spewing it all over the internet.
Amazing stuff. I've got some questions from the audience. Goose Springsteen here. Thank you very much, Goose, as ever. There's a well-known British volunteer in Ukraine drone unit I've seen offering a high-value donor the chance to be given control of a combat drone on the battlefield. What do you guys think about the legal and ethical implications? That's a tricky question.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Go for it. Why not? Just press that button.
There you go. No problem there for Richard.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it with Starlink. We were having this discussion actually like a few months back, because with some of these new digital drones, so such as the interceptors, because it's running through a digital feed, you can actually get that signal transmitted to a Starlink, and then you can have that transferred to someone's laptop where they can, effectively have I want to drop the bomb on this location, boop, and then press it.
Wow.
I mean, that's how these like these baby boats, I can't remember the name of them now, the drone boats,
the sea babies, that's the USVs, the Magura V5s,
exactly. They are operated through Starlink.
Yeah, incredible.
What's your point of view on that, though? I want to know.
This
I mean,
comes
it's not
down
ethical, but
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like if I feel very strong, like there's an interesting discussion to be had here. Like if I feel so strongly that Ukraine, let's take it to a different context. I remember I used to keep chickens, right? And at the time I was trying to live as ethically as possible as an ethical consumer, right? And I kept chickens. I'm like, right, I want to, so I can have the eggs. And then it was like I had too many cockerels, right? So I had to kill one of them. So and that's an interesting story in itself. But the idea was like I wanted to know what one had to go through to kill an animal. This is before I became a vegan, right? So which is because I've got multiple sclerosis. Anyway, whatever. But I wanted to go through the process of killing an animal so that I knew what would be entailed in that, so that I could say, right, now I'm justified in being able to eat an animal. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's a kind of similarity there with the idea that, like, I really want to support Ukraine. I think Ukraine should win, and I'm cheering on when I'm showing videos of stuff getting blown up that's Russian, blah 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 blah. And like, so is that not a bit of a cop out for me to say, yeah, look at this, is amazing, right? But then refuse to be someone that would actually do that myself. Do you know what I mean? And so like I can actually probably build up a moral case that we should almost not have to, but we'd be more justified in our opinions if we knew what it was like to go through the process of following through. But then that requires me killing someone, and then so you know there's maybe a psychological element, because you know, if I'm looking at Ukrainians and saying well done for killing those Russians who are doing horrible things, right? Then it's a bit weak of me to say well done for you doing it, but I wouldn't do that. Like you can do that, but I'm not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's as often it is the case with morality, there's a lot of psychology involved. But yeah, what an interesting question. Thanks, Goose. I really like that one. He often throws in a few like that. So Johnny Nebregard, thank you very much. Thanks for your support, mate. Goose Springsteen again said, please can Richard talk about the evolution of interceptor drones in Ukraine? Is there any role for gun carrying drones rather than hard kill collision interceptions that destroy the interceptor? Great question.
Yeah, I have seen many of these gun drones, these shotgun drones shooting other drones out of the sky. With something such as an interceptor, you don't really want to add an additional layer of difficulty to the thing. And from what I'd seen with these shotgun drones, it was kind of like steel, like metal tubing, which would obviously add quite a bit of weight to it. And yes, you would want to be using some kind of the same mechanism that would be a shotgun to effectively shoot out the sky. The reality is that these interceptor drones aren't that expensive. You're talking around about $600 for just the components cost of an interceptor drone. And if you're taking out a Russian reconnaissance drone, which is worth 150,000 plus, it's okay. This is very much worth just taking that hit. You know,
That's the wrong calculation. That's the wrong calculation, in my opinion. So, although that's a valid calculation, but the more pertinent calculation is the opportunity cost. So, this is like many people have said, why are you wasting money on this AMRAAM or whatever missile that's like $250,000, and then you're taking an Orlan 30 that's like $30,000 or something like that? You're like, but what does the Orlan do? It's providing reconnaissance to spot an S-300 battery that then gets hit by a Russian Iskander, and then that you're losing millions of dollars worth of kit. So actually taking out the cheap Orlan with an expensive missile is justified. So yes, you're right in saying that this interceptor is cheaper than that particular drone. Even if it was more expensive than the drone, it's still definitely justified. It's the opportunity cost of not taking that bad boy down. Sorry.
And I mean, if you trade that shotgun mechanism for the weight of the current, 500 gram or so payload, I mean, it already will obviously weigh more because it's two heavy metal tubes. And then you take those couple of shots and then it doesn't miss. It's like, okay, and now we need to try and figure out how to get this bloody thing back that might be 30 plus kilometers away. And it's like, okay, now the job is let's try and navigate that thing back to our location and not give away where we are at all in some respect. It's a lot easier thing to smash into the thing rather than to try and shoot it out the sky. And we're talking about like 3,000-4,000 meters up in the sky. And you've
Wild
seen a lot of the videos you're coming in to try and hit it, and it's like, okay, like going through,
Yeah, Wild Hornets had just produced a video where it was like, was it 11,000 meters up in the sky? They were like basically on the Earth's atmosphere with some kind of interceptor drone. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Another question here from Mal Robert Brovdi, so Magyar, said recently that Shahed attacks of 1,000 a night are coming on Ukraine. Can Ukraine withstand this? It seems interceptor drones will be vital. That's my opinion too. I fear for Kiev as it's getting more attention.
It's going to be hell. And as I said, seeing all of that this morning and understanding that that's going to be 1,000 a night, just made me think even more and more we just need to rapidly upscale this interceptor production, because although ours might not be 10,000 meters or whatever up in the sky, do you say there's 36,000 feet? That is insane.
11,000 meters,
yeah, fortunately, the Shaheds I don't think are flying that high, so that's just showing how high we can fly up, right?
Yeah.
So what they would have done is they would have just pointed a relay like straight up into the sky. They would have just had one big arse antenna pointing into the sky to be able to get that signal. But as I was talking with a guy called Alex Ferguson on
Yeah,
a
I
live
know him.
space the
I'm on
other
a
day.
I'm on a
Oh,
I'm
cool.
on a couple of groups with him. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, well, what he was saying was that actually before they're attacking places like Odessa, what they do is they group up just offshore by a
Yes.
few
Yeah.
kilometers, and that is the exact perfect thing that our drones could be used for as
Mm.
interceptors, is just flying up to that group and then just wiping them out as a swarm.
Taking off from a USV like below that, or a platform below that, or a
Yeah,
patrol boat below that. Yeah.
yeah, that was his idea, and then but we actually did the calculations, and we said we could just fly this straight from the shore, like no
Really.
problem. We can reach those distances of many, many, many kilometers away, and also the altitude is no problem at all.
Well, you got fat C
Um,
as well, so there's not going to be much
exactly,
interference. Yeah.
no interception, no like interference in between. And then just realizing like, hey, like why the hell are we not just doing this in these situations where we have the flexibility to instantly be able to produce this stuff? All we need is a bit of funds to be able to produce it, and then we could literally just go ourselves down to the shore of Odessa with the military and go, hey, by the way, guys, let's do this last bit. You slap on the explosive, and we can fly and take out all of these Shaheds.
Do you know
And
what
there's
pisses me
nothing
off,
stopping
mate?
it. Yeah.
Do you know what really pisses me off, Richard? Is that some dickwad like Elon Musk is sitting there on billions of dollars,
Yeah.
and he like spaff billions of dollars on getting Trump into power. Whereas, like, mate, just like take a fraction of that, like just I don't know, $50 million. You know, 50 million, that'd be nice. Just
Yeah.
$50 million to like frontline kit, make me, or
Yeah.
Wild Hornets, make me some
Yeah.
shiznit that is going to get up there and take out all those drones. You know,
Yeah.
that's why, you know, people like George Soros and Howard Buffett, for example, I mean, they're the other end of the political spectrum, but they're putting their money where their mouth is big time. And I just love it if someone like Elon Musk had a road to Damascus moment where he's like, oh, I'm going to wake up as a morally decent human today, and I'm going to give Richard Woodruff like 50 million spondoolies, and he can go and make us some of those interceptors and blow the feck out of those Shahed drones. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're completely right, and we've done these calculations a lot of the times where I mean, obviously, air defense incredibly critical. The Patriot missiles, you can't replace them. But sometimes when they're firing off like a HIMARS missile, we're just like, guys, can we just have the money for just that one missile, and then we can just have 10,000 drones instead, and like we can most of the time reach the distances that they are hitting with these HIMARS missiles. And I'm like, okay, let's do the equation. What's more impactful, that one missile or 10,000 of these drones coming towards that position? Yeah, I think sometimes we just need to do these calculations slightly better to actually figure that out. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, if with operators like ourselves, the only thing is money holding back from us being able to massively upscale production. And we had this conversation. We had like 20 British MPs in our drone factory looking around going, wow, this stuff's absolutely incredible. Like they were understanding, they were seeing the footage of all of our hits. They were showing the reality of these drones, you know, flying them indoors for them. And they went back to England, and then nothing really happened. And it's like, shit, like you show so many people that are in like powerful positions that are meant to represent the people. And it's like, come on, I expected like someone to make some kind of call, because I've tried it enough times to reach out to various people, but yeah, we just need some foreign government to turn around and go,
Branson hit Richard Branson. So he keeps saying really positive things about Ukraine, Branson, and
I thought you were going to say about me.
Yeah, well, yeah, no,
Like, thanks, Richard.
I've been speaking to Richard, and he said
He
that
said you're a great
Woodruff
guy.
is a great lad, yes. So okay, another few questions if you don't mind, Richard. So Goose Springsteen again. Is the view of the drone war that Ukraine has the qualitative advantage while Russia has a quantitative advantage fair? Well, actually, I'm not so sure anymore. How big of a threat is the scale of the Russian industrial base, and how good are Russian operators? Great questions. What are your thoughts?
The Russian operators are quite new because we tend to kill them quite quickly. Yes, the ability, or I mean, Russia is doing this on a war footing. They are, you know, getting every single university to be producing these FPV drones. They have huge factories that are building all these drones, and that's why every single drone that's landing on our guys' positions, we have them in Lviv, and you can see they're all the exact same aluminium cut frames. So they must have a good friend that owns an aluminium factory. The quality is good. It's just they're using some of the wrong components on it. You're using a metal frame, so it's going to be a bit heavier. You're going to have a smaller payload. They are making advancements all the time, and it's just a case that every time one of their reconnaissance drones, for instance, lands, we're taking it apart and taking every single bit of technology, adapting it, and using it for ourselves. And they're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of cat and mouse. But
Yeah.
yeah, they have the huge advantage that they're living in a dictatorship where the one man says, "Everyone, now you switch over to war." Where here it's not really on that kind of footing, and we don't have the money to be able to keep up with the Russian production.
Well, yeah, but I still don't know. Like, I know you're probably in a better position than me, obviously, but I'm under the impression that the production of Ukraine and being able to draw from so many other countries to also provide that range of drones, because it's not just FPV drones, there's a whole like different suite of drones that I would have thought the quantitative advantage would still be with the Ukrainians, although the Russians have been ramping up. There certainly was an advantage for the Russians about for the Ukrainians, certainly on a front line. When I last was speaking to some people from the Tochny lot who had done a lot of the data analysis, that seemed to indicate that the Ukrainians were doing. They're certainly hitting. There's certainly more footage of Ukrainians hitting Russians. But it'd be interesting. That was probably 6 months ago. It'd be interesting to look at the stats now, because these things can kind of flow and ebb and flow.
We have a very bad quality problem that all of the top brigades are trying to fix at the moment, and they are trying through all the government reporting systems to go, hey, these producers, you need to go after them for some kind of corruption or malpractice, because we are receiving thousands of drones and they are not working. And that is a terrifying thing. They are really, really pushing it, though. And there are these reporting channels. And I think that it will change over the next few months. But the amount of time that Ukrainians are having to waste reworking a drone, and it takes the same amount of time to rework a drone as it does to just build one from scratch. And I took a whole video that I will be publishing this week of one of the workshops in Lviv, where we just have ammo crates and ammo crates and ammo crates just full to the brim of drones that were at the front, but for some reason one of the components isn't working and it can't fly.
Yeah, it's very. This is kind of almost belittle the issue, but like it's very much like Lego. I don't know if you've ever done Lego, but yeah, built Lego models before. But when you follow the instructions and build something from scratch, like it takes you X amount of time. But when you start have bits of it missing, right, and then you try and have to piece it together and know which bits, and it takes you longer to build to fix a thing that's like somewhat broken than it does to build the whole thing from scratch. That's the same with Lego as it is indeed with drones. So there you go. There's a bit of parenting. Right. Goose Springsteen says, how many lessons do we in NATO need to learn regarding protecting our military bases and infrastructure from cheap drones? Like, do you get an interest from, you said you had MPs at your place. Are the militaries must be looking very, very closely at what's going on to see what they can learn.
I think everyone has got their head in the sand, and this is one of my biggest fears, is that Europe and America is completely and utterly fucked because we don't have any jamming systems in place. I even remember seeing the images of the president of the United States' car going down the road, and because we know enough things about electronic warfare after building them, we can spot all the antennas on the roof and go, yeah, you're not jamming everything there. And even if you were, you're not jamming an optical fiber drone that's going to come down and hit your whatever it is, convoy of cars. So yeah, I fear hugely that Europe is lacking so behind in this. And I did a piece with LBC on this. Because the French MOD on their Instagram was posting like, hey, we're making 3D printed drones now, and we can print a drone per hour or something in our mobile workshop on the front. We spent a year trying to master 3D printed drones. It doesn't work. You just cannot 3D print drones. The material is not rigid enough. And even after you've 3D printed it, you still need to do all the soldering on top of that. So you still need to attach the motors. So it's not a magical drone printing machine. And then we also commented on the Royal Air Force, because they also shared on their social media this clips of them throwing their FPV drones outside of a helicopter, being like, wow, we're drone ready. And we looked at the components, we were like, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work at all. Like everything that you put on that drone is absolute crap. The motors were hugely underpowered, the antennas were bent, the soldering was crap, and it was like, and the battery was half the size of what it should be. And it's like, if I know more than the British and French militaries, we've got a big fucking problem here. Like,
yeah.
what the hell is going on? I'm some
Well,
30-year-old Brit, you know.
what a funny world we live in, where it could be that in a year's time, Richard, the British MOD could and probably should come to you and say, "Hey, mate, just do you want to come and give us some consultation advice on like what's going on and what we might need?" Like, you know,
And
I bet you
yeah,
never thought you like sitting on a beach in Spain a few years
yeah.
back. You never would have thought you'd be in this position.
Yeah, one of the reporter actually reached out to the MOD press person and said, "By the way, this person's offering help." I won't tell you the responses, but yeah, it really is a head in the sand, and we need to find the people in these positions that can actually just listen, because we don't want to sell anything. We just want to give them advice, because these are our home countries, and we don't want to see our people dying because people just haven't been listening. That's the
Yeah,
most terrifying thing. And
yeah.
our drones are flying in British skies. We're training Ukrainian soldiers in Britain with our drones, which
No
is
way.
very,
That's
very
cool,
cool.
mate.
They're being
Which
they're being
you would
used as
hope.
part of Operation Interflex.
Yeah, so Interflex is where the British train the Ukrainians with the help of other nations, you know,
Yeah.
Nordics, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, etc., etc.
Mm.
And you know, we've trained an absolute shed load of Ukrainians, but I wonder whether there'll be a bit of going both ways there. That you could, you know, there will be an element of the British and the other nations being trained by the Ukrainians as they are supposedly trained. You know,
Yeah.
it's this weird situation where like we don't have the experience, the fighting experience that the Ukrainians do. So it's
Exactly.
yeah, it seems weird that we're doing the training, but there you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
br-
NATO needs Ukraine, not the other way around.
exactly.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have said that after the war, every single person that's fighting on the front will have a job in terms of training up Europe to be able to actually fight off another country.
100%. Thanks, Blom Bombshell. Really kind generosity from you there. Thank you, Julian Roster, as well, for your generosity. Stephen Bendal, just as we sort of meander towards the end, Richard, philosophy, what is the difference? Pay for the drone, but someone else press the trigger, or pay and press the trigger? Are you more or less guilty? And that's the discussion we're having.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's a point, Stephen. Yeah, like that's what an interesting discussion to be having, though. I love a bit of philosophy in the morning or early afternoon. Thank you, by the way, Stephen. Really appreciate your support always from Norway. Esben Mikkelsen from Denmark says, I have been wondering if it is possible for troops to blind the camera of an
Mm.
FPV drone or FX with IR, so infrared light or a laser.
Yeah. You can shine a very, very bright IR light, but then you become the world's largest target. And we actually had this really cool idea of dropping, and we might still do it in the future. So if the Russians are listening, here's a little tip for you: is dropping little IR blaster bombs on top of important targets with thermal drone cameras. So you can then use your normal daylight cameras to be able to see this massive like IR light that is flashing, and then you go, okay, let's go hit that target, because otherwise you're having to spend an extra few $100 on a night vision camera to be able to do the same job. So yeah, you can almost mark targets with a little IR blasters going boop boop boop, we're here, but they
Clever.
won't know that it's been tagged. Yeah.
Yeah, very
So
clever.
it's something that's coming, you know.
David says, I'm currently in Narva, Estonia, looking across the border at Russia, flanked by the EU, Estonian, and NATO flags. I feel safe this side of the border. Thank you, David. Estonia, the Baltics, they are really on the edge, aren't they? So thanks for your support. Daddy Jim, thank you for your support. Remember, Butcher, absolutely. I'll push the button in my sleep, he says. And I'm not sure about this question. Do any drones work like HARM and auto-target jammers? HARM being the anti-radiation missiles that you can fire from planes. Are there any sort of anti-radiation capabilities on drones, I guess?
Yeah, there are, but it's like this whole thing comes down to cost and expense.
Yeah.
And for instance, it's just like the whole AI targeting thing. It's like, okay, are you actually going to be able to hit anything else? And then, yeah, well, I mean, we had one AI expert in us showing that they're targeting software, and we said, oh, you want to see some videos of the last 1,000 hits? and then tell us if your software would have been able to go around all of these trees, for instance, to actually be able to get to the final target. And they were like, nope, it's lock on and final, 100 meters if it's straight to hit the target.
Yeah,
And
so
we're
I
like,
guess
well,
AI is fine if you've got like the big open area and you spotted a tank
yeah,
down there and you're like, bosh,
yeah.
okay.
And you're
But
like,
yeah,
not
fair enough.
moving, but yeah.
Just the last couple, if that's okay, Richard. Sarah says, can
Yep.
you ask Richard if he's tried to approach NGOs for help with funds, or maybe a millionaire that has a conscience? And that's what we are sort of talking about earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the incredible NGO that is Siegespoor and a charity called Alarm Charity. They have been purchasing drones for the likes of Achilles and other units. Yeah, so we have had them approach us, but they come to us and say, hey, we've got this pile of cash. Can we effectively purchase drones for the front of them? And yeah, we say we can sign an agreement with you that effectively shows that every last dollar you have sent us is for the components cost, because we're an NGO. We're not a drone selling business, so we can't make any money. Yeah, we have a contract written up that effectively shows that amount of money that they have been donated to by their donors has gone straight to the military unit in the form of drone components. So it's possible. And yes, I would love to know of more NGOs that are currently purchasing drones for the front, because then we can get an extra 25%, an extra 50% of drones to the front, whereas they might be using another supplier currently.
If you're a millionaire out there, which I'm sure many of you are listening to my channel, not
Billionaires,
millionaire,
probably.
yeah, billionaire maybe. If you're one of them out there and you're not billionairing on a yacht somewhere, here's your man. That's who you need to speak to. So what now? Stinky says, Richard, has anyone tried using the casing of the explosive as the frame of the drone to save weight?
You need to strap on the explosive as a last point, so that wouldn't really work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the casing of the explosives is next to nothing weight, because it's 3D printed, and we can do certain infill levels that mean, yeah, you can chuck it around almost like a balloon. Yeah, it's better to just figure out clever design of the 3D printed munitions.
Absolutely. Can't we help? We will, Michael. Hopefully, if once we sort out our next campaign, we've just finished the Car for Ukraine, another great Lviv-based
Love them.
organization.
They're great.
Ivan and Claire and everyone from Car for Ukraine are just
Mm.
amazing. Now we're doing Jigasport, and then I'll keep in contact with Richard and see if we can help out beyond that, because I think once there's a personal connection made, then it kind of people feel a lot more involved, and I think that's fantastic. So just the last one for you, mate. I'm actively thinking of launching my own weapons design business here in the UK to support Ukraine. How do I find out the requirements, please? I guess
grok,
well, it's
That's
about
probably the
speaking.
solution.
Well, it's about speaking to Ukrainians. It's about finding out what's needed. Like, what do Ukrainians need? The people on the front will tell you, and I'm sure Richard knows this more than anyone. Like, they will say, "We need this," and then you go and make that. You don't. And this is the problem that the Russians have had previously: is it's not been a responsive. When you've got that centralized production setup, it is good for producing a F ton of stuff, right? But it's all going to be the same. And then 6 months later, that is now obsolete. The frequencies need change or whatever. And the complaints on the Russians is that they were getting a lot of drones that had been centrally like ordered and manufactured, but by the time it gets to using them, they aren't so useful. Whereas the Ukrainians have a much more of a free market approach, where you've got the private and public and FUNDRAISER and all these different entities and lots of different producers, which can be chaotic. And there does need to be probably some kind of universalization of the platforms and stuff. But you are going to get quite a lot more innovation. And as long as they are speaking to the people on the front and making to order, then I presume that's beneficial. Sorry, I'm just
and
going off on one.
you've summed that up perfectly. It's asking what they need because there are so many really good willing people that come to Ukraine and they go, I've got this great idea of how we can help the military. And then you ask the military and they go, no one's asked for this, you know,
Yeah.
no one has asked, it's not going to help in the slightest. But there are all of these other problems that we need your help with. Please, can you help with this idea? So yeah, probably the first thing to be doing is just be asking the military and saying, hey, like, what is it that we can actually help with? Not what do I want to try and come up with that I can then sell to the military, or, you know, offer my service to the military.
Amazing. Well, look,
I love all your patches in the back wall, by the way. I need to send you out our patch and flag. Your patches are beautiful.
Because I've also got this, which I'm filling up, and
that's so cool.
Which has got there's my last NAFO one with Rick the Ukrainian.
I've lost you, but I saw half of them.
Yeah, so that's Jigger's Paw. That's Car for Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's my NAFO ones. Rick the Ukrainian NAFO one, Car for Ukraine, and a bunch of some other ones that I've got hold of. But yeah, love them. Love me some patches. So if you can, Richard, you know, I would donate to your cause, of course. And in fact,
I do want to say thank you as well for mentioning Ziga's Paw and Car for Ukraine, because they are just such incredible people, really. And I love that you mentioned them, because the second someone's talking about those kind of people, I'm like, okay, you know your shit about Ukraine, because you found the best people straight away out there. And yeah, it's really lovely to hear their names pop up.
Oh, that's amazing. That means an awful lot, actually, because, you know, it's one thing feeling that I know these people, and I've actually visited both of those places and spoken to them in person in Lviv, but still, like, you know, it's your own personal relationship and you're really going off what they're telling you, but for other people to then confirm that is really absolutely cool. So that's fabulous. So David just says, look, just two normal guys doing their absolute best for the beautiful Ukrainian people. Thank you both on behalf of everyone who cares about Ukraine. Thank you, David. And really, you know, I'm pale into insignificance. I mean, I guess somebody needs to keep shouting about Ukraine in the kind of social media spaces, because I guess that is really important. I'm not trying to big myself up, but sometimes I think I'm just sitting speaking about stuff on a computer, but I'm not in Lviv building freaking drones, and that's what Richard is doing, and being to the places that Richard has. So I pale into insignificance compared to Richard. So thank you, Richard, for all you do. Who would have thought that you'd be in the position you are now, as I say, when you were sitting on a beach in Spain?
You can come join us any day and build if you like, but seriously, I think what you're doing is very, very, very important, because otherwise no one on this planet would even know what's going on in Ukraine. And without people out there actually shouting about what's happening, then yeah, we just fade into the darkness and die. That's the reality. We need people on social media shouting from the rooftops what is happening, and sharing the videos of explosions each morning. And yeah, even if we get a bit nose blind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is great, and we'll work in perfect unison there. So, well, look, really appreciate the time you spent with us today. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. What are your sort of last words you'd like to say to the audience? Any? I didn't even. It would be great to speak to you again, actually, Richard, because I want to talk to you about what your feelings are concerning the war in general, and where you think things are, and that's another hour of conversation. So if you're up for having another chat, I would absolutely love that. Is that something that's okay?
100%. I'm there.
Cool beans. Okay, well, that's something for the audience to look forward to. But in the meantime, you know, what's your kind of parting words? What are your final words?
To do exactly what you are doing, Jonathan, and that is just to continue talking about the war, because that's the most important thing. Otherwise, yeah, as I said, we will fade into nothingness. We need people talking about it, even if it's calling your friends and family, even if it's sharing with your 5 followers on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. It's just actually telling people about what is going on. That is the way that we're not going to be forgotten. And yeah, if we can increase public support, then maybe our governments around the world will start doing something. So thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate it.
Awesome sauce. Well, look, stay on the line, matey, and we'll talk just a final bit. But in the meantime, thank you very much to the audience. Thank you for supporting the channel. That's really very generous for the people in the live chat who did that. Please go to atpgeo.com/donate. That's where you will find the Jigger's Paw initiative, which at the moment I need to do some more speaking with JR. You guys know JR, he's in the live chat, who's been actually organizing that. He's like the campaign guy, guru, and it's a bit like a menu of things that you can buy towards creating whole drones, and Jigaspor will then produce those drones and get them to what could be the 47th, you said, which would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So I will do a separate video on that campaign, and I will also, I think, get Irina probably from Jigaspor on, and we'll have a talk about the campaign, and maybe even some people from the unit. I think that was touted also as a possibility, so that'd be fantastic. But yeah, so go and check that out. Thank you for all the people who helped with the Car for Ukraine campaign that was so successful as a bit of a stopgap, and thank you to Richard. Keep up the amazing work, and of course, Slava Ukraini.
Slava.
Awesome sauce.